Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Andy Astor. I am a Parks resident, been so for 2 years now, and I'm running for the Parks Board. If I'm lucky enough to make it, I will represent not only the parks but the whole community the best way I can manage to serve. And one thing that I want to make a point of, and I might do it again later, is I'm available. I encourage conversation, cell phone, email, come to my house and chat. Um, doesn't mean I'm going to solve everything, but I'm certainly going to listen. That's who I am, and let's get on with the show.
Okay. What past experiences do you have working as a committee member or with a group to problem solve and create positive solutions?
One thing I've done in the past, where I lived previously in the HOA, I served as the finance chair on a committee that unfortunately there was some financial anomalies that were identified. I led an investigation with the board, with the management company, to do a 5-year review to uncover funds that were unfortunately taken from the community, and also some funds that were simply never paid but no one knew it. Through that review, we were able to recover those funds and also the funds that weren't paid that should have been, and it was a successful resolution. It was a horrible situation that ended up being good in the end. One other thing that's similar to that wasn't a committee related, but I currently am the vice president at a company that has 85 employees, and with COVID that happened, obviously, and is still happening, I had to manage the task of getting my 85 employees from working from the 2 offices we have in Taylor to now working from home. We had to secure laptops, had to secure the correct internet connections, and make sure we didn't have any lapses in our client service. I was not the only person on that team, but a big part of it, and so I was a big part of that as well. So not only on the money side, which was great on the previous HOA, but also on the people and service side is another example of working with a group. Can't do it alone.
Fantastic. What qualities do you believe a neighborhood representative should embody and bring to the board in order to create and promote a harmonious community relationship?
I think any board member, doesn't matter what group you're in, has to be honest, has to be selfless. It's really easy sometimes maybe to be selfish, I suppose, but it doesn't work if you're going to be on the board. You need to be knowledgeable of the governing documents. Like it or not, that's what we have to live by, and sometimes they're not so easy to interpret. So the board members need to know that. Need to be patient. And I think sometimes an educator, back in those governing documents, there's a lot there, and I don't expect everyone to have read them. I do expect the board to have read them, so it's important to know that. And sometimes people just don't know what some of the unfortunate maybe rules are that doesn't suit their needs well, but they're not all that difficult. It's just a matter of helping to communicate what they are, why they exist, and truthfully, there is some opportunity to change things, change rules. It's not easy, but it's possible. And as a board member, I'd like to listen to anybody and hear what they have to say. That's what I think a board member needs to do. Last item is listen. You have to listen. Like I said, it's real easy to be, I think, selfish. You have to put yourself in each of the residents' shoes and understand what they have going, what it is that they may not like at the time, and see if you can find a way to help them.
Okay. What do you consider the greatest challenge for your individual community at the present time, and how would you resolve this challenge?
This one is kind of, I don't know about, for the parks, there's really not, in my 2 years I've been here, the one thing I think that I've seen that's been consistent, that I think is a challenge, and I'm not an expert in this, but is I guess the condition of the lawns and landscape. And mind you, I know the parks is the last phase that we have put in. I know we're on clay soil, if you call it soil, and that's a challenge for anybody to grow anything. So the lawns haven't looked good since I've been here, and I'm not complaining about that, and maybe others have, but it's been consistent. I know we spend a lot of money on water. We spend a lot of money on services through Canon to do what they do in the landscape. But I think we can do better. I don't have a solution on that. I'd like to. I'm curious, since I've only been here 2 years, and we've had people that have been here, close to 15, I suppose. What was it like in their first 2 years? What can we expect? Maybe we're just need to be a little more patient, maybe because it's the clay. I'd like to get more information on that, but I do think it's something that I think a lot of people that bought in here, like when I didn't build. I bought a resale, but people expect the lawn to look nice and not have to weed and pull things from their landscape. But I see a lot of people doing it, me included, and that's not the end of the world. But it's like, I thought that wasn't what I was marketing for. So I'd like to figure out, try to help to find a way to improve that.
Okay. Under what circumstances do you believe a special assessment to the community is necessary?
For a special assessment, which I've was experienced at other places, it needs to be should only be used for an unanticipated major expense. And in the case of Bridgewater, we're a little. That's not me. That's just Tommy. In the case of Bridgewater, we have a very, I think, a great board, a thorough process. People that are familiar with the reserve study should. What the reserve study is here is it's a forward-looking estimate of what it takes to maintain the assets we have. They deteriorate over time, much like the roof that's being put in now. That's a cost that's anticipated. There's other things that are unanticipated, and that's where I think a special assessment comes in. For instance, if the lodge started to collapse, if roads started to crumble unexpectedly, that's when the unfortunate need of a special assessment, I think, should be used, but really only then. Everything else should be covered by the reserve study, done well and as thorough as possible.
Okay. What are 3 physical improvements you'd like to see at Bridgewater, and what will you do to see them accomplished?
The three physical items that I think that I've noticed, and I'm not sure, and some of this might have history, probably before you as well, obviously, Tracy, is we have, I just mentioned the reserve study, and much like that takes into account the assets we have and maintaining and keeping them going forward. Well, there's a couple assets I've noticed that we have that really haven't been maintained, at least not since I've been here. One is I believe, an old pickleball court at Freedom Park, the paved area. I think that's what it was, but I'm not sure. That's what some people have told me that have been here before. It's kind of just become what it is now, which is essentially an unused parking lot. And the other item that I've noticed is the putting green, which was marketed actually quite a bit by Pulte in their marketing for people that were building at the time. And it hasn't been maintained. They may have had a better day years ago, but it certainly isn't now. In the meantime, they've both been sitting there, at least in the last 2 years, and pretty much just existed. So what happened to the maintenance of that? Or is there a plan to do something about that? I don't know. So those are, I think, 2 improvements, whether to make them what they should be, use them as they were intended, do something else. In those particular examples, I'd like to work with, should I be lucky enough to get on the board, I'd like to work with the board and the master board to figure out what are some good options. Does it make sense to rejuvenate each of those into what they were? I think so. There's a lot of golfers here, and there's certainly a lot of people who play pickleball, but I don't know. That's why I would work with the rest of the board to find that out. And one other thing that I think is important, kind of on the main entrance, which is really beautiful. I remember the first time I pulled in here. In fact, everyone that I have a lot of friends that have visited from time to time over the last couple of years, and everyone says the same thing. Nothing but great things to say when they pull in. It's impressive. The lodge is impressive. The entrance is impressive. Off Bridgewater Way. There's other entrances, but that, considered a main entrance, is really beautiful. What's kind of a bummer is there's always commercial vehicles in the parking lot. Sometimes there's a mulch mountain in the parking lot. That kind of takes away from that once you make the turn around to one side of the lodge or the other. It'd be nice to consider some options to not have that visible. Think about not only us as residents, but it takes away from the grandeur that this place could have. It could be better. It'd be nice to figure out, is there some property we could buy to store things instead? We're not the only HOA that has these situations, and I don't think everyone's putting their commercial vehicles in their parking lot. So I think it's just a matter of exploring other options with the board, and what I would do is try to see if there's a way that makes sense to improve that. That's how I think I can, at least the 3 items that I believe I could help with.
Okay, any final words?
No, just one thing. Being on the board is especially with when Pulte left, things were different. The master board changed, and now we as residents are the board. So it's a big commitment. There's no doubt about it. I'm not doing this lightly. I will be there. Like I said, I think you have to be dedicated, which I will be, available, which I have to be, and that means just like I am in my job. I encourage. I maybe other board members can't say this and don't want to say this, but I will provide my cell phone number if you don't already have it to call me anytime and I'll respond. Same with email. Same with go knock on my door, 24243 Leelanau Lane. I'll be there and more than happy to talk. Doesn't mean I'm going to solve everything, but I'm going to listen and I'll see what I can do to help.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ren.
Thank you.
I mean, Andy.